Where's the thing?
Yeah.
I thought we were going to add the symbol.
Well, I can't just add it to the track.
You got to get your symbol in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Where you hit the symbol.
There you go. Do it manually.
We do a live symbol.
Like an actual gong. Like
a gong would be nice.
Okay.
So, what's up? We're back in the studio. We've made a couple changes here. Feels good. Feels comfortable.
Feels good.
We have an awesome special guest with us. We have Jordan Anusewicz.
Hello.
Jordan tints windows for a living, and we work hand in hand sometimes, and work really well together. Really great guy in the community, and I've known him for a lot of years, and we got to talking and said, let's get you on the podcast and let's hear your story a little bit. And
he's what the podcast is about.
Yeah.
Young entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Mental health awareness. Struggle. Had his struggles and friends that have struggled with that. So it's like that's what we talk about.
Yeah.
So Jordan, you're a resident here of Minocqua. Went to Lakeland Union High School.
Yep.
Graduated there, and then so what kind of directed you on your path to starting your own business and doing your own thing?
I would probably contribute working for other people. Mm-hmm. Probably a primary source of wanting to work for myself, essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
Because unless you're working for somebody who really treats you well, and there are a lot of people out there that do that. I'm not saying that there aren't.
Right.
But
I feel like we touched on this in one of the podcasts.
We did.
How we were kind of like the same.
Well, you kind of get that vibe where it's like, yeah, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, rolls downhill.
This
sometimes.
Ain't gonna work for me.
No, and even if you make it work for you, it's just another stepping stone in life.
Right. Right.
It's not always going to be the end goal to work for somebody else.
Right.
I guess essentially.
Sure.
At least it shouldn't be. I think being an entrepreneur and working for yourself, it says a lot about yourself. It says that you trust your name, yourself, to go out there and perform the task at hand that needs to be taken care of for you to be able to provide for yourself and your loved ones, so.
Yeah, that's the root of it. And then what got you into tinting? I know that you worked at a dealership prior to starting your own business, right?
Yes, I worked at Lens Truck Center
in
town here. I worked there.
Yep.
I ended up managing the detail department over there.
Okay.
And then one day, the service manager came up to me. He's like, "What do you think about tinting windows?" And I was just like, "I've never even thought about that. Never even had tint on my own cars before,
Okay.
Not a day in my life I thought about window tinting." And so I was just, I went home and talked to Kayla. I was like, she's like, "I think it'd be a good idea." And it also helped me like step away from detailing a little bit, just getting burnt out on it a little bit. Because I think at the time I'd been detailing for close to 7 years already.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah. And I'm happy that I did, obviously, but I would say the first month that I was doing it, I was questioning myself. I was like, is this cut out for me? I don't think so.
Your first month of tinting?
Yep, first month of window
Okay,
tinting.
so you're dialing it in at Lens Truck Center still?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're having you tint for them,
mm-hmm.
and you're just kind of feeling...
So I went to a 3-day class down in Chicago, Illinois.
Okay.
And, well, at the class, after that first day, 8-hour class, I was just like, what the am I getting myself into? This is crazy. And then the 3-day class went by. I came back, and I was kind of just maybe thrown to the wolves a little bit, because they expected me to perform. And it's something that you don't really just, get thrown into and you just pick up right away.
Yeah. There's an art to it.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
I've watched him do it, and it's like there's so many. The actually tinting the window takes 30 seconds. It's like the preparation
exactly.
and the after work and
all the prep.
Yeah,
it's all in the prep.
I mean, he's forming the film around a window, and then by the time he gets to it's like half hour by the time he gets to a window, and then it's like 30 seconds and it's tinted.
Yeah.
But it's like all the prep, and he's taping stuff
right.
up. I mean, it's meticulous too.
I want to back up just a little bit here. So you said Kayla, your fiance.
Yep.
You came home with this idea. or this idea Len's had for you.
Right.
And I want to talk about having a woman in your corner.
Mm-hmm.
Because you also have a very nice lady.
Yes.
What was one idea where you had to come home and tell her, and like, how did she respond to that?
You know, it's daily, so like I can't remember like.
This is the mad scientist.
Yeah, she's either like, here we go again, you know.
Yeah.
But no, she's usually the first person to be like, oh yeah, that's great, like do it. Or
that's
whatever.
what you need.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
When you hear those words coming from your significant other, like it's just that little edge to push you even farther and farther.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean that's great.
Yeah.
The feeling of knowing somebody's got your back.
Yeah.
Like someone's like, if we go down, like they're going down with me, and we're gonna build back up together again.
Totally agree.
Like, so yeah, just like when Nola says that, like you say, and she's like first to support, and your fiance was like, yeah, I think you should go chase that, like a new thing, like, and you're gonna hit those little, you know, you're gonna come home sometimes, like I remember certainly coming home sometimes after I got approval to do those ideas for my wife and the support, but it's like some of those days are still tough.
Yeah.
And then it's like how they respond to that too, like, hey, you know, keep your chin up, you're doing really good, look how far you've come.
Right.
That's a big one, right? Like, look how far look at where you started and look where you're at now, and it's like, because I lose sight of that.
Yeah. Oh, that's an easy thing
for sure
to lose sight of.
So you're doing the tinting. First month is kind of like, man, I don't know if this is for me.
I was ready to throw the towel in.
Okay.
Like I remembered very vividly. I attempted to tint the front two windows of an F-250, Ford F-250, some of the easiest windows to be tinted out there. And what was getting me was the little S curve on the bottom where, you know, of the window. Okay, I just couldn't get it cut right. And then, so I had to go in and tell my manager that I couldn't do it. And then, you know, I was just feeling really down about it. And then the next day they came to me and they're like, hey, I have this Chevy Camaro that needs to be tinted. Get in there and try it. The back window, I was just heat shrinking it, creasing it, not doing what I wanted it to do. So I had to go in and tell them, you know, I don't think this is cut out for me. You know, I really don't really want to try to tint a Camaro if I can't tint a Ford or a truck at least. And he's just like, okay, before you give up, let's just, you know, reach out to the instructor and see where we can go from there. And ultimately, the instructor came up for a day, worked with me for one solid day, and pretty much restored every ounce of confidence in me when it comes to tinting. Window tinting, I would say it's like 99% confidence, you know, because you're never going to see a perfect tint job out there, ever. We don't live in a bubble. There's constantly little particles floating in the air, you know, so in the moment you rip that liner off the tint, it's called a static cling, and everything just wants to gravitate towards the film. So unless you get water on there quick enough, but yeah, so I'm really happy that I stuck with it.
Yeah, it's like a really cool little example of like persistence and just like not giving up, you know. Just, I mean, it because you were that close to gold almost. You were one day with the trainer away from like success.
Pretty much.
And now look at like, you know, you're tinting every day.
It's crazy. You know, I mean, after I left Lens, I continued to do some tint jobs on the sides on Saturdays and Sundays in between working for my other job, which was a moving company, getting in jobs as I could, you know, or as I could, I guess. And, just day by day. Yeah. You know.
I really like how this is a shout out to business owners that have employees. Mm-hmm. How you go into their office, that's special.
Yeah.
You go into their office and say, look, I don't think this is for me. And rather than, granted, you've been detailing for them for a long time, so they obviously already like you and like your ethics and like your work ethic, you know. But, hey, this isn't working out for me. And rather than just give up on you, too, because obviously you'd given up on yourself at that point.
Yeah.
And maybe not 100%, but you were close. And for them to say, you know what, let's get the guy, like, they believed in you.
Yeah.
They're like, let's get that guy back here. Let's have him sit with your, like, we know you could do this.
Yeah.
And then, like, how that, I'm getting goosebumps again. How that, like, and now that's what you do full time. Like, so employers, like, not giving up on people sometimes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's a special thing.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking immediately when you started talking that. It's like, I would have been like, oh, what am I going to expect? Like, walking in here telling them, like, I this up again or whatever.
Hey.
Oh, it
that
ate me up.
Yeah, that's tough.
And then
to
he's
do.
like, no, like, we're going to keep going. That's cool.
I guess I should note the first customer tint job I did. This was prior to working with the instructor.
Okay.
You know, so this kind of added to the what is it?
The self-doubt.
Yeah, the self-doubt. And well, ultimately the first customer tint job that I did in the detail department, and it was, you know, we have vacuums and air chucks and huge overhead doors opening all day long, you know, so just blowing all the stuff around, you know. And yeah, the customer saw it and he's just like, nope, take it off. And I was just like, damn. I was like, here we go. You know, this is going to be a long journey possibly, you know. And that was the only one that I've had to rip off though.
Okay.
So I'll keep it that way.
Because this is a beautiful thing where you go from detailing for a long time, so there is no customer returns because you're so good at it.
Right.
So it's like you're on this high of like being so confident in what you do, and so like, but knowing in your heart it's not where you want to stay.
Right.
But like at the same time being so good at it, so like there's no doubt in there to.
Yeah.
Like having to go into your boss, like the first one you do, they say, nope, take it off. And then going into your boss's office, like, no, I can't do this. You know, that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can also compare it with detailing as well, because I worked at Dave Marson Motors initially. And my first detail, or I guess a whack at a detail, was just a rental car that we had. And it was a Ford Fusion. And I just remember cleaning it to the best of my ability and bringing it up to the front, and Bobby Marson bringing it back saying try again, you know, and just you learn from that.
Yeah.
No,
Like, what did I miss?
That's so awesome, because like you're never, I was like just thinking about this the other day, like you never do something like you could do it pretty good your first time, but like that's just like reality.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
nothing is good your first time.
Yep.
You gotta like feel it out, go through the motions,
Yeah.
like understand how, like some of that grit, how hard, you know, grease from your hands on steering wheels and handles. I mean, there's so many, you know, things that I notice when I'm just trying to wash my vehicle, and then it's like, oh geez, I thought it was really clean until it dried, and then it's like, you know, or whatever. So but just like great example of pretty much anything, you gotta just keep going. Try it a bunch of times.
This goes back to our episode where we talked about the wrap you did on the four-wheeler and the snowmobile. Like, you did the best you could in that moment. Like, we could only see life through the glasses we're wearing, right? So like as we grow and stuff, we're changing glasses, or however you want to look at it, we're looking through different lenses. So like, and then but in those moments is where our biggest growth comes from. Like, I remember my first driveway customer calling me and like telling me that the driveway had washed out that I just did. And it's like, you know what I mean? And you're like,
just punches you in the gut.
yeah, it's
because
like your heart just sinks in
getting paid for that job just covered bills, and now you have no money again,
Right.
and you got to go do it again.
Yep, it just
like,
sinks in. It's like a pit in your stomach, and it's like, oh my god. And in that moment, just like in that moment where you're tinting and saying, I can't do this, and that moment where that vinyl wrap, you know, like we all had that moment, and then from that moment we didn't give up because we had good people behind us and whatnot, and we didn't, and we made it right, and now look.
Yeah.
And now, so like that's the biggest thing to viewers is like, no matter where you're at with something, you know, getting knocked down, get back up.
Yeah.
Yep,
Like because that's what make you know.
It's what defines you. I mean, if you can continuously get back up and, you know, just keep performing, you know, consistently, you know,
that proves
that's
a lot
good.
to people too, you know, especially like customers. If you screw up early on or whatever, it's like I was in sales. My family owns Lakeside Docks, and I was in sales with them for a while.
Yep.
And my dad's like, as soon as you talk to your first customer, just tell them they're your first customer, or tell them that you're a salesman in training, and all of a sudden they cut you like a million miles of slack.
Yeah.
And they're trying to help you learn.
Yeah, right.
And so But I think that like it shows a lot about a guy too when he is learning. He's honest about the fact that he's learning. If you make a couple screw ups or whatever, and they point it out, they're trying to help you as much as it's growing you. And then it looks really good on you when it's like, oh yeah, I guess I did miss that rug or that crack in the seat or whatever. And you can learn from it.
Yeah.
You get a lot of respect then you probably have a lifelong customer, you know
Right.
what I mean? Because it's like, oh, I was one of his first customers. They take pride in that. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Bringing that up, my favorite customer to this day, me and him talk. He's an awesome dude. I've done my biggest contracts with him, and he's always getting more work done. He always calls me to do the work. He doesn't question my bids because he knows I'm good. I dropped a tree on his garage. But it's like, you know what I mean? Sometimes you make those little mistakes, and he's not up here.
Yeah.
So it poked a little hole in his roof.
Yeah.
And so the first thing I did is call him and tell him what I did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this was before we had that really good rapport. But I think from that, he's just like, because he knows people mess up.
Right.
But it's about owning it and then getting a little better. And he recognized that. And now he doesn't go with anybody else.
yeah.
And he does big projects. Like,
as
that's
long
awesome.
as you rectify it,
Right. No, I called him
Right.
and we fixed it and we made it right. And he's like, oh, no, he's like, I really appreciate you calling me. I'm like, I'll get it watertight. I'll get a roofer out here. He's like, we're going to be tearing down that garage next year anyway. You're going to be tearing it down because we're building a new, bigger one. He's like, so not a big deal. Just we'll get it patched. And just like, but from that moment, like, yeah, like I said, we're all going to make mistakes, but just like owning up to them and growing from them is the key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What do you do for fun, Jordan?
What do I do for fun? Well, I like to go fishing,
Okay.
canoeing, hiking.
What kind of fishing?
Panfish, walleye.
Okay.
I've never caught a muskie.
Okay, I haven't either.
Never tried, I guess, but yeah, northern. I don't know if I said that or not, but I don't do much ice fishing. I try to stay off the
Okay.
ice. I used to do it, every now and then with my brother-in-law, but he had burnt me out officially, because it was like every time he'd be like, oh, it's just like, 100-yard walk or something like that. Next thing you know, we're walking 500 plus yards out to the middle of the lake, and I'm like, I'm done with this shit.
Yeah.
I'll stay inside.
Yeah.
Just hit me up in the spring, fall, or spring,
There you
summer,
go.
and fall.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Do you do motorsports?
No, I try to stay off of motors, I guess.
Okay,
in
okay.
a way. Like, I've had a motorcycle before, and I almost hit a deer. Got hit with a June bug in the face, and it was like a little Honda Rebel 250.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just kind of vibrating me like the whole time, just like a little moped almost
Yeah.
at that point. And I have plenty of family that rides and whatnot, but freshman year, I ended up flipping 3 4-wheelers in one day. So I kind of
Okay, we gotta hear that.
Yeah, I'm wondering what made you get on the third after you flipped the second?
1, 2, like I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
Not Jordan.
One more! Let me try again!
We gotta hear this.
The third one was the worst one, and that's why I stayed off of them.
Oh, off of the fourth.
You haven't rode since the flippings?
I mean,
We'll call them the flippings.
Yeah.
not by myself, I guess.
Okay,
technically.
so
Yeah,
that
no.
did you in.
I don't have a 4-wheeler, and I don't really.
So set the scene for us. You're out riding.
Young, dumb, gravel. Yeah, no. I'm just following a buddy through the woods. I guess the first one. Let's see. Oh man. I don't even.
We're digging out of the archives now.
Here we are. We're going deep back in there. Dig it out.
Yeah, no. The first one, I think I. See, I remember the second one and the third one vividly. I don't remember what I did on the first
Okay,
one.
first one, a little something. So you get back on.
Second one, I was following a buddy through a trail, and he's like, "Come on, Jordan, follow me. There's a little jump back here, and I'm thinking little jump.
Yeah.
And it's actually like a sideways jump. It's like, I don't know. So I tried hitting that and ended up rolling straight off of it. And then the third one, I just pinned it a little too much on some gravel and went straight into some trees and ended up having the 4-wheeler fall on top of me. And luckily I didn't break my ankle or anything, but there was like a rock embedded in it and stuff.
Oh.
It wasn't too good. I probably should have went to the hospital.
Is this the same 4-wheeler as the first flip?
No, they were all 3 different 4-wheelers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So the 4-wheeler was the problem.
Yeah, it was the 4-wheeler for
Switch
sure.
to the other 4-wheeler.
Yep, 100%.
Okay, so motorsports are out for now.
That was the summer that I moved up here, actually.
Welcome to the Northwoods.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get beat up. So when did you move up here, Jordan?
I moved up here in 2007.
So
Okay.
How old were you then?
I was 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
With your parents or what?
No, I actually had family living up here already. I've been
Okay.
coming up here as a baby, or since I was a baby, up to the Lake Tomahawk area specifically.
Yeah, that's
And,
where me and my wife live.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love
Yeah.
Lake Tomahawk.
Yep.
Man. Big shout out to Lake
So you're
Tomahawk.
coming up. So you were a tourist at one point.
Yes, sir, I was.
Okay. So you're playing tourist.
Yep, and then my great-grandparents had bought property in the mid-'80s in Lake Tomahawk, and then my aunt and uncle had decided to move up here in, like, I think 98, 99, and then I would always question my parents, you know, because we'd be coming up for, like, you know, Christmas, and summer, and whatnot, and I would always question them, be like, why don't we move up here, you know, and they're like, not enough convenience for them, you know, there's nothing up here, and
Sure.
just something that I didn't really agree with, I guess, sort of
Right.
say. And then just, I guess I was kind of a troubled child down in Illinois, and
Okay.
I ultimately got kicked out of my house when I was 13.
Your parents.
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
parents said
out of my parents'
you can't
house.
stay here anymore.
Pretty much.
Are we talking like drugs, alcohol? Are we talking
No drugs, no alcohol. Well,
Okay.
I mean, when I was, no alcohol.
no
not
alcohol?
then.
So just not
like,
listening and not listening.
Rebelling, yeah,
Okay.
hardcore.
Like breaking out of the house, running away. Like what are we looking at?
I mean, we snuck out of the house quite a bit.
Okay.
Never got caught. You know,
Okay.
so that was a plus for us. But it was more so just rebelling, fighting with my siblings. I have
Okay.
two brothers and one sister, and
Okay.
fighting with my stepmom and whatnot. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you lived with your dad and your stepmom.
So I actually have a pretty complicated situation.
Okay,
'Cause-
okay.
So technically, he's my stepdad. And
Okay.
So my biological mother, she had
Yep.
passed away in 2008.
Sorry to hear
Or
that.
2001, I'm sorry, while I was 8 years old.
Okay.
And she was married to my stepfather. I don't really know my father, my biological
Okay.
father. And yeah, we just didn't really connect or see eye to eye. I
So
was
then
always
he
fighting.
remarried
He remarried to my stepmom.
to your
yes.
stepmom, and you and her weren't seeing eye to eye.
Yep. No, not necessarily. And it was a long 5 years, I would say. But we got through it, and ultimately they were looking for, like, they didn't know what route to go with me, you know,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
was pretty consistent with the troublemaking, I guess, sort of say.
Yeah.
And
Do you today, looking back on that, do you have any like anger towards them about that, or anger towards your stepfather about that? Or...
I have in the past.
Yeah.
Now, no. I'm pretty, I guess I would say I'm at peace with it.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. Yeah. I would just leave it at that, I guess, sort of say.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine like being a kid and like I don't know my father either. You know, I've seen him for bits and pieces, and now I probably haven't seen him for well over 5 years. He's
Okay.
a full blown alcoholic addict.
Yeah.
But I feel like, you know, as a kid, you know, your mom passed. Were you tight with your mom?
See, that's another thing. Like, my mother had passed away of MS, so she
Oh.
was in a wheelchair towards the end of her
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And I was, you know, I was young and dumb. Or not dumb, but maybe dumb. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just young and didn't really, I guess, respect her as much as I should have, I guess. You know, like,
Okay.
but when you're young, you're not really thinking about that.
Right.
You know, you're just
Right.
Yeah. You were 8, so like.
Yeah.
by
So
then.
I would like destroy my room and talk, I don't know, shit to her, I guess, and just run around the coffee table while she's trying to catch me, you know, and just like, there's some stuff that, yeah, I probably do regret when it comes to her, but there's nothing that can be done with it, and I know that she's always, you know, there, and
with you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get goosebumps again. No, I'm gonna cry. No,
it's all good. Let it out.
No, this is good, man. We want to learn about you.
Yeah.
You know, and this
that's
is
what we're
powerful
doing.
stuff. And here's the thing, like, there's other people that go through not exactly our stories, but like similar, and like they need to see that there's the hope. You know, we're the hope shots for that.
Yeah.
You know, our stories are those hope shots. Like, okay, so you move up here. You're 13.
Yeah. I moved in with my aunt and uncle,
And they're like, we'll take this kid. We'll see what we can do with him.
We'll
that's
whip
exactly
them into
what
shape.
they did. Yeah, and you know, it was great. It was the best thing that ever happened, minus Kayla, I would say. But
Okay.
moving up here completely changed my life for the better.
Okay.
You know? And
Yeah, you could tell he's a real troublemaker now. So what's your relationship now like with your aunt and uncle then?
Yeah.
so
like they
it's-
obviously became your parental kind of figures.
Yeah, you know, they were very much so like a mother and father to me in my high school career. And it's kind of rough, not gonna lie. My uncle, he still lives in town here. My aunt, she ended up leaving in 2012, I think.
Okay.
And, you know, it was literally a situation where my cousin and my uncle were out hunting for Thanksgiving time, and just, you know, one day I get a call from my cousin, and she's like, you need to come home. And I'm just like, why? You know, I'm staying at a buddy's house, just hanging out for the weekend or whatever. And I get home, and all of her stuff is gone, you know.
All your aunt stuff.
All my aunt's stuff just gone. She ended up going to Milwaukee with some inmate from McNaughton or whatever.
No
so yeah, she ended up just
Peace out.
Yep, and I'll never forget that look, you know, my uncle and my uncle's and cousin's face when they walked through that door, and just all the shit, you know.
Dude,
wife's
heartbreaking.
gone, mother's gone, and yeah, after 18 years of marriage between them two, obviously they had issues and whatnot, but it just sucks that you can't, like, at least leave on better terms.
Yeah.
You know, rather
Where,
than that.
where are we at in the timeline with this? What age are you at this point?
I'd be 18.
You were 18 at this point.
Yeah, this was
So
after I had graduated, shortly after I graduated.
Okay.
So yeah, my uncle still lives around town here. You might see him at Happy's. He's a great guy, really good carpenter.
You're still tight with him?
Yeah, I am. I don't really drink as much anymore, so I try not to go to the bars. You know,
good.
I just, so, but pretty much if I'm going to see him, I'm going to be seeing him there. So.
Okay. Do you think there was a big change in him? Obviously, but like, let's hear about that. Let's hear about when she just, like, you come home.
So actually, you know, it's kind of funny because, yeah, there was a big change in him, you know, and my uncle, he's a veteran. He was a Marine.
Thank you for his service.
And he loves MGD. You know, that's probably his water, essentially.
Okay.
So after that happened, he was drinking pretty heavily, and that was right around the time where, you know, getting out of high school, I guess, start throwing a party here and there and having friends over, and just pretty much that's, I guess, when we started partying a lot, my cousin and I, my younger cousin.
Okay. And the cousin is your aunt and your uncle's biological son. Got it.
Yep. His name was Ryan Larson, and he was essentially like a brother to me and my brothers.
Okay.
You know, we were all within the same age. And
Where's your stepfather at this point?
where's he?
Yeah, or like contact, like when you moved up here when you were 13, where did it leave off with your stepfather?
Yeah, good question.
It might hurt him to hear this, but he probably won't even listen to it anyways. He's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
So I've never really respected him. You know,
Okay.
I kind of lost a lot of respect for my stepfather probably after my mother died.
Okay.
Just because that probably affected him so much, but also in return, like, he was a father.
Okay.
You know, he wasn't
Yeah.
really an affectionate, and I'm not saying I needed affection, but
Oh, we do.
he was kind of...
Yeah,
That's
you do.
bunch of
No, yeah, you're right. I'm saying maybe not necessarily from him.
Right.
You know what?
Yeah,
You're right. It
you
is a
know,
bunch of
hell
bull.
yeah, dude. Yeah, no, we need affection. Absolutely.
Yeah.
From every aspect
We're
of our
human.
life.
You're right. You're
Absolutely.
100% right. You know, I totally agree
So,
with that.
and now you're in your 30s, and you're able to look back on that and say, like, you know, he really wasn't a good dad, and make, like you said, make peace with that. Like, you know, that's
Yeah. I mean, I believe in karma in both good and bad forms,
Yeah.
and he has definitely gotten some karma his
Okay.
way. You know, that's where I'll pretty much
okay.
can leave him.
Okay.
him at, you know.
Okay.
But-
Are you still tight with your brothers?
Yeah, my stepbrother Trey, he's 3 months older than me. He lives up here actually.
Okay.
So I see him every now and then. He works for the bus company in town here.
Oh yeah.
And then my younger brother I don't see too often because he lives in Illinois still.
Okay. And where are they at with your stepdad?
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ryan.
Yeah, so Ryan took his own life in 2015. And
Okay.
pretty much a very irrational decision. I don't think he would do it, you know, if he had the second chance.
Okay. So so Aunt leaves 2013,
She left in 2012.
2012.
Yeah, 2012.
So
Actually,
3 years.
Yep.
3 years later, Ryan takes his own life.
Yep.
Okay. At this point, is he having communication with his mom at all, or is she
No,
like completely
no.
just cut everything off?
He cut her out of her.
He cut her out.
Yeah,
Okay.
He cut her out. You know, I mean, I don't see how you could not. You know, like.
Right. I can't even imagine.
Yeah,
No.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
No, man, I would
What
be
that-
heartbroken.
Oh
I
my
would be
God.
devastated, and I'm sure he was, but he was always a very happy-go-lucky kind of kid, you know,
Yeah.
like always smiling, telling jokes, you know, dancing, goofing around, and didn't really show that side, you know, didn't of himself, I guess, didn't allow himself to, I don't,
Be vulnerable
yeah,
in front of people, you know.
Right.
At this time for this whole situation, because I mean, like in reality, like when a kid goes through something like that, I mean, there should be therapy. There
Yeah.
should be help. They should be getting help for that. That's a monumental, life-altering event. Like you know, it's like when I'm not trying to compare it, and I'm not trying to die it down, but like when you find out Santa isn't real,
right,
you start questioning everything
right.
about.
Yeah.
But you're
Completely
you're
understandable.
8 years old at this point, so I mean, what is your everything? You
Yeah,
know,
I
are
could-
Skittles real, or
I
you
couldn't.
know, is anything real to? But you fast forward to the age he is.
Yeah,
I
And
couldn't imagine the things I'd be questioning if my mom
everything,
just
bro.
left.
Everything.
yeah.
What
I
is
mean, like,
life?
right.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? You know, And
Right.
just like,
yeah.
when in reality, it doesn't have anything to do with him. You know, and
That's so important. I want to hammer this home right now.
Yeah.
If you're a child, you are never responsible for decisions your parents make.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And I know so many kids, including myself, dude, like when we go to our dad's house, like the few times we did, like my mom would drop us off, he would be at the bar all weekend. Like
Yeah.
he would come, you know, show up for a minute and like change or something and be gone again, and we would just be stuck at the house. But like as a kid, you put that on yourself.
right,
Like why? Like what's wrong with me
right, yeah,
that they're doing this? And I just want to tell you, boys and girls, and your parents' decisions are never your fault or a result of something you did.
right.
That's their
Totally agree. I totally agree. You know, and Ryan, he never really. I don't think he carried that, you know, on his shoulders as
Okay.
much. I know it, like part of it was over a girl, so he also had a young child at the time,
okay.
and not with the girl that he was with.
Okay.
currently. And then the girl ultimately left him, you know, that day. I don't know. It was just a day that you'll never forget, you know, just
Yeah.
like, you know, so it's just kind of, it sucks. So pretty much what I plan on doing is I'm going to donate 10% of the proceeds that I make from automotive tint jobs coming up in June. The whole month of June will be donated to Prevent Suicide Wisconsin. And I'm really looking forward to doing that because I just want to, find a way to help back when it does come to mental health.
Yeah.
Know.
So you're celebrating his life.
Well,
it's been 10 years.
Yeah, it's been 10 years in June, and I think it's very fitting and appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
To like celebrate who he was and his great life that he did live.
Yep.
Ryan was in my class since kindergarten.
So with my wife then too.
Oh, yep. Well,
so my wife knows him as well. Okay.
Yep. And but just a incredible soul and so unique, and like, you could kind of pigeonhole like people. It's like, especially in high school, later years of grade school, but it's like you got your jocks, you got your cheerleader type, you have these.
There's cliques.
Ryan was so unique. He never had his own. He never had it. He was just on doing his own thing all the time. But he was one of those guys who could be around anybody, and just a really cool, unique, funny. He was really good friends with Gunner.
Yeah.
Growing up, and he's a good friend of mine. But I just remember we were in Boy Scouts together. I think we were in Ryan's mom's van.
Yeah.
She had a van when we were kids or something.
So your aunt.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is.
I'm piecing it all. I just met Jordan. I mean, I've known of him for a long time, but I'm just officially meeting him now.
So we're driving to, some Boy Scout thing, and Gunner, Ryan, and I are all in this car. And I wouldn't say Ryan and I were ever like good friends. We never like did a lot outside of school or whatever. But that kid, everybody knew, anyways. And you had never had a bad word to say about him. But he was like, "Mom, put on All Star by Smash Mouth," And to this day, every time that song comes on my playlist, I think about him because I'm like, that's what I remember.
That's beautiful.
Like, there's always something it was probably one of the first experiences I had with him that was outside of school, and it was just like, that is just so iconic to me. When I hear that song, it takes me right back to that spot we were.
That's
and like,
awesome.
So I'm glad to have a little memory.
All-Star by
and like,
Smash Mouth.
Yeah.
I could totally picture him singing that.
That's
out loud.
fantastic.
Oh, dude, and he would just be singing it all the time in school and whatever.
I've never met this kid either. I feel like I know him.
Yeah.
Just from this little bit of talking with you guys, Ryan sounds like a fantastic
He was cool.
dude.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that you're doing that for the month of June. I would love to get some tint done, but you've already done all the windows I possibly could tint.
I want to talk about two things. I want to talk about this foundation a little bit.
Okay.
So we can know about it, because I've always wondered where I could help in the mental health area, because I like we talk about, we have our struggles too, but I want our viewers to know too, like where they can reach out and help and what this organization's about, number one.
Okay.
And number two, I kind of want to talk, I don't want you to relive this day or anything.
Right.
But I want to talk about the build up to that a little bit. Like what could we notice in our friends and family, or was there nothing to notice, or like, I want to get that out there too, kind of what that looks like. So, because we're all in this together, we all have to look out after each other. We are each other's eyes and ears.
Right.
Like, so just those two things. Take whatever one you want and go with it right now.
Let me pull my phone out really
quick
about the so Prevent Suicide Wisconsin is partnering with Mental Health America of Wisconsin.
Okay.
And pretty much at preventsuicidewisconsin.org, that's where you'll be able to donate money towards mental health awareness.
Okay.
So, and I kind of it just kind of popped in my head. Like, I didn't really have an exact plan on if I was gonna do this or not. I just kind of just threw the idea out to Kayla, and she's just like, yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and you're honoring your brother, and I think,
yeah, definitely. So I just Googled, Initially I was gonna do just a general, I don't remember the number by heart, but it's just gonna do a general donation to suicide. But I prefer to keep it in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
considering this is our home,
Yeah.
So
Okay, so this organization, and you deciding to do this, yeah, I think that's proof of Ryan's spirit within you,
yeah.
right? So
Well, I mean, I carry Ryan on my shoulders every day.
I love to look at it like this. Like, obviously, Ryan's not alone in this situation. Unfortunately, we lose a lot of people this way.
Right.
Ryan, through you, can now save at least one person's life,
Yeah.
right?
Hopefully.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, that's the goal. Like, if we can, so now you're allowing him to live through you to help save somebody else's life. And that's like, now I'm getting goosebumps.
Yeah.
But that's like the beautiful thing.
I'm curious can you just touch on it a little bit? Like how, you know, was this just out of the blue? Was
Yeah,
there
let's get into
anything,
it.
100%.
yeah,
100%.
very
No
surprised.
shit.
It smacked the living shit out of our family.
Yeah.
Like I, completely unexpected it.
So like
And
never seen him like really riding that edge of like,
no, and there's some, maybe some contributing factors that are my opinion based. Like he was on Adderall from a very young age, and I believe that helps or doesn't help the development of our brains,
Yeah.
and
I was on it from a very young age.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so is my younger brother, and he has some mental health issues,
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying
Yeah.
that you do,
No.
but everybody goes through it differently,
Yeah.
and that's just one aspect.
What other kind of things were you?
I mean, you throw in, a little marijuana here and there, and you
Yeah.
throw in some alcohol at a very young age. Like,
Yeah.
we're not prepared for that,
No.
and it's going to stop our development.
Yeah.
And yeah, we might have, like I said, partied a little too hard, and just I know it just had to have been a multitude of things.
yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like there's like obviously the girlfriend thing might have been a tipping point.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a tipping
Yeah.
point. I can say that.
Well, I mean, we've been through breakups where, like, in my younger years, that felt like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, definitely.
And then you throw this other stuff on top of it, and it's like, yeah, you're just.
It's a bad concoction.
That's a dark place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you don't know which way to go, and your only way is out. If you're thinking like that, that's rough. And
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if that was his thought process on it. Like, I feel like he was, well, let me just start by saying, like, we were over at his house the night before.
Okay.
And just like any other night, hanging out, just playing games, whatever. And I just remember this look in his eye, that, I don't know, everything seemed fine. But when I think about that look from his eye, I don't know if that was a sign, but I don't know. It was really, really messy, at the time. And yeah, I don't know.
I can feel it. I think we can all feel like what he's speaking, now. And there's just like so many unknowns. You really don't want to assume anything. But obviously there was a lot of hurt going on, enough to justify the action. And I think that's like the big driver home here is like for anybody watching or anybody that hears this, if they're, just make sure that you're not alone. And there's definitely places I've been in my life and like felt like definitely didn't want to talk to anybody or say anything to anybody about it. But if you just talk to one friend or one person you could call, just to help a little bit of the burden, or just to, not let it manifest too far.
Right.
Because
Right.
I think there's just there's it hurts a lot, the people around you, and like the last thing you want is to have a buddy or a brother or a friend or family member think that's the only option, or get to the
Yeah.
point where that's the option. And we have the email address, the tube
Yeah.
outreach at gmail.com. If you ever need
I
that
check it
person,
every day.
we will be that person for you.
Absolutely.
That's
Off
awesome.
cameras, off mics, like, so
Yeah, hammer that home.
yeah.
That please do not feel like that's your last option. Like, at least reach out to us.
And you
at the
probably
Toob
will
or-
feel like it's your last option, but make a call or send an email
Yeah.
or something.
You
know.
have to reach out.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, because there are definitely people out there that care about you.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
whether you feel it or not.
Yeah. We're going to dive into it a little bit more yet. I
That's
want like 3 years ago. So, high school acquaintance of mine ended up committing suicide. 3 days before that, 2 or 3 days before that, I had messaged him about a motorcycle he had for sale.
Really?
And like, there's always that piece of me that like, was there something I could have said? I don't hold it in my heart. I truly don't.
Right.
I think that was a decision he had made. But
Right.
when we were talking about that motorcycle and like something was off in his responses, was there something I could have been like, hey, you want to go get lunch and talk about the motorcycle? You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, I'm circling this back to kind of ask you, like, genuinely in your heart today, are you at peace with how you handled it, or do you have any regrets in that situation? We're here to tell you you shouldn't have any regrets, but I want to hear what you have
What
to
you
say.
feel.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're always gonna question why,
Yeah.
like, why couldn't you just talk to me,
Yeah.
or, and even, we were brothers, but he was more close with my stepbrother Trey.
Okay.
So they were really close.
Okay.
And it's like, if he couldn't reach out to me and he couldn't reach out to Trey, like, he's got to be in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was always really close to his older sister Kimberly, and he had a lot of resources to lean on, and yeah, it just eats you up a little bit. You wish you could pull him to the side and be like, hey, I know what the fuck you're gonna do tomorrow, don't be doing that shit. Just try to drive the point across and essentially tell them that you care about them and that you love them, and that let's figure this out. So it's just,
Yeah. So, like, we really truly never know the reason why someone ultimately makes that decision, right? And
no,
we'll never know that final answer.
When I hear of a suicide, or like Ryan, or any situation, I just try to like put myself in the position almost and go, okay, you had to be hurting pretty bad to justify that.
Yeah.
You had people around you that loved you and that you could have called, and it sounds like in Ryan's scenario, had some loving family members around him.
Yeah, definitely.
And not that it makes the action justifiable or right, but it makes me feel at ease with kind of these situations when I can just take a deep breath and go, the level of pain to justify the action was obviously there.
Yeah.
And that's what I hurt for people in this situation who have lost a loved one, or when I kind of was like approaching those times in my life and made it through, had good people in my corner, and never hurt enough to justify that action.
Yeah.
But I know how hurt I was getting to the point of wanting to get to that action, or not even contemplating it, just it coming across in your
Right.
brain in waveforms. That's what really grounds me in these situations, is that like there was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Because like you said, when we look,
it's not the easiest route to take all the pain away, but to feel in your heart that that was justifiable and that was the decision you made, you had to hurt.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you were just doing it for fun. So
Right.
Yeah, no, you don't do that stuff for fun typically.
no,
You know,
and
to
like
make
just
light
trying,
of the situation.
yeah,
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 Like,
yeah.
But
Just trying to like really bring that home and like be like, you know, like that's it's it's hard.
it is hard, you know, and I've struggled with that when I was living in Illinois, and I'd probably have my younger brother to thank for stopping myself.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you see it. Like, I mean, I had a wrestling buddy take his own life, you know, not too long ago in the area, and it's just, even if, like, you know, and he has young kids, and I just hate to see that, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I really
Matter of
wish.
fact, that was the situation that somebody said to me. Can you imagine the pain he had to been feeling to justify that?
Yeah.
And that's what's ever since I have like really rewired my thinking on suicide and just like
Yeah,
trying to
man.
understand that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
When you hear someone say that's so selfish of them, what's your first thought?
I mean, I'm torn
Yeah,
because it kind
that's
of
what I
is.
feel.
You know, it kind of is.
It is,
It's
yeah.
not your. It's not your choice. You know,
Yeah.
in my opinion. But then also at the same time, it's like, shit. If you are feeling that much pain,
Right.
man, like, I don't.
Right.
Why would you want somebody to live their entire life with that much pain? That's why I said, you know, his decision was irrational. You know, because you know somebody for so long, and everybody makes mistakes. You know, on different scales. You know, and some of them are just life threatening, unfortunately. And I mean, I had a customer last year, a younger kid, and he didn't take his own life, but you know, he got into an accident and lost his life, you know, doing something that he enjoyed. Well, actually, I had two customers, two. And it sucks. That's just, you never know when your time is up, you know, but I don't believe that it's your call, you know,
when the
to
time
make
is up.
that.
Yeah. And I think that's like so powerful here too, because like that is an angle a lot of people take, is like that it's a selfish thing, because and the only reason I can really justify saying that would be a selfish thing is because it takes the pain away for you, but
Yeah,
it
for
hurts
you
the
and
people
yourself. Yeah.
people around you. But you know, there's two sides to every coin, and like yeah, that kind of just goes back to like, well, yeah, you had to be hurting pretty bad,
Yeah.
you know. So
And I guess even just saying, you know, that person was selfish doing it, you know, and it could be a factual thing, you know. It's not like we resent them, or we, you know, I guess
Yeah,
hold any anger towards them for it. You know, it's their choice, and they made that, and you just have to move forward.
I think this story in particular, Ryan's story in particular, I think is really important. I think we can reach some people because I think that's where this money you're putting towards this foundation is helping,
Yeah.
because of the irrational decision part of it
Yeah.
that you're saying. You know what I mean? So like by reaching out more, making more awareness of this, making more people more aware of how it affects everyone around you, you know, can we stop some of those irrational decisions from happening?
Right.
Through awareness,
Right.
and through talking about it,
Talking.
and through talking about our experiences. You know, that's where I think we can make that impact. Is
Absolutely.
like, and like you said, you know, you can't imagine the level of pain you're feeling, because I know at my point in my life where I didn't want to live anymore, the amount of pain I felt, but I didn't go through with it. So I can't imagine what it would feel like to have that next level of pain. You know what I mean? Because I was here and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
To go here, I can't even imagine what that level of pain would be.
Yeah. Me either, man. Honestly,
I think that's important too, is just always just checking on your buddies.
Hey,
Like,
because
like, let's normalize checking up on your buddies.
yes.
A good old phone call, like
yes.
right.
none
No
of this
text messages.
Snapchat and like whatever. Like good old freaking ring that phone number and say what the f***'s up.
Right.
That's the point I'm trying to hit home right now. Is call that friend
Yeah.
that you haven't talked to in a while.
I
Give them
agree.
a shout. Like, even if you said like, I called you and actually you're doing the best you've ever been, and then we just ended up having a conversation anyway, and it was good, and I felt better after. The best I've ever felt in my entire life, the highest I've ever felt, and I've done copious amounts of drugs. The highest I've ever felt in my life, was when I was helping somebody else.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and I get that feeling too. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it feels
My
good, man.
first sponsor taught me that in my program. He's like some days I wouldn't know what to do with myself. Like he would just say like, why don't you call somebody else? Why don't you give someone a call that you haven't seen at a meeting in a while?
Okay.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
like 6 months clean, not knowing what to do with myself. Things are going better, but like I'm feeling some type of way, anxiety, panic,
Yeah.
worry, fear. And he's like, why don't you call someone you haven't seen in a meeting in a week? And man, you call them and you talk to them, and it's like you help them, and then the way you feel after that, and the way
Yeah.
it helps you after that,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this is the ticket to life. This is what it's all about.
Yeah. I can
Right?
feel that for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah. Honestly, I would have to say that's part of the reason why I still detail today, because it's such work that I just essentially like delivering the results. You know,
Yeah.
I get more enjoyment. It's not about the money. It's not about the time. It's purely about the enjoyment that I get from, or I mean, that I get to see people, you know, when they get their car delivered and it's looking, you know, as close to brand new as possible as I can, you know, deliver essentially. And or tinting, you know, too.
Yep.
You know, it changes the aesthetics of the
Totally.
car, you know, and so many smiles when they come to pick up
Yep.
their vehicle, and
Yeah.
it's just, that's why I enjoy doing what I do, I guess.
Backwoods
You're good.
Tint, delivering smiles,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing for you guys actually.
Oh, what do we got in
Dude,
the
our
goodie
first
bag?
goodie bag.
Goodie bag gift. Adam,
Yeah.
why didn't we get a gift from you?
I hope you guys like cookies.
Do I
Oh.
like cookies? Come on.
Yeah, we know he likes cookies.
Come on.
These cookies are from Wildberry. We have a monster cookie, a blueberry muffin cookie, or
Oh.
the famous frosted sugar cookie.
Wildberry Market's right here in town.
Yep, organic food store in town here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you can leave us all with that's stuck with you over the years? Something somebody said to you, something you live by. What can you leave us with?
And it sounds cliche, but like, just seriously, never give up. You just
I forget.
keep progressing. You know, I guess something that I've always taken pride in myself, you know, that I've always told myself is that I don't want to revert. You know, like, I don't want to go backwards ever.
Mm-hmm. One foot in front of the other.
Yeah, you know, and a lot of it, I guess, pertains to jobs I've had in the past, you know, or whatever, but you always leave on a good note, you know, never burn bridges, and you just don't go backwards. You always continue to move forward.
Yeah.
I'm so glad our paths have crossed. I feel like we're very very
for being here.
similar-hearted people, and
I
don't think our paths crossed. I think we're gonna kind of go like this, Jordan. Rather than just crossing, like meeting at that one point,
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start intertwining, because I think we found our guy, for bearables with us.
Oh, 100%, dude.
What's bearables?
I think
You're gonna
I-
have to watch today's
Bro.
episode.
Okay.
bro.
I will.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you
awesome.
again, Jordan. Thank
Yeah,
you so much
yeah,
for coming out,
seriously,
chatting
thank
with
you,
us.
Austin.
Another awesome episode on the Tube here. Jordan Anusewicz, everybody. Backwoods Tint and Detail. Thank you for being here, man.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
and
you.
yeah, love life, right?
Love it.